page 49. A Short Introduction to the History of Human Stupidity, Walter B. Pitkin, 1932. 1.6 Boundary 1.6.1 Common Causes of Ignorance. Stupidity remains largely an undiscovered country whose bournes no surveyor has ever checked with tape and transit. While it is still much too early to read off its frontiers to an inch and compass point, we must and can give a broad account of the lay of its territories. First of all, we must show how it lies with respect to its sister kingdoms, ignorance, superstition, inertia, and unintelligence. Into what alliances has it entered with this concerning intercourse and raid? What embargoes are in force? What manner of foreign exchange and tariffs prevail? Here are topographical and diplomatic questions which tax the lore and cunning of us all. Consider the relation to ignorance, first of all. This seemed, at first approach, quite easy. But what a delusion! It is a thicket of problems. Penetrate these, and you come out on a bleak plateau swarming with ferocious enigmas. I thought I knew just what ignorance was, until I drew near to its big game fields. Do we not usually look upon it as mere lack of knowledge? I did. And the build of the word supports that notion. But the matter does not clear so readily. Ignorance is a negative term. It means mere lack of knowledge. The lack, of course, may be variously caused. Failure to analyze it leads to serious misunderstandings. Let me list 5 common causes of ignorance. 1. I may never have had a chance to learn the subject of which I am ignorant. 2. I may once have learned it but soon dismissed it from mind because it did not command my interest. 3. I may have been misinformed about it. 4. I may have a resistant attitude toward it which has hindered me in learning. Or 5. I may be constitutionally stupid and thoroughly incapable of grasping the subject. Broadly described, these are given here in the order of their gravity. If I am unaware of facts only because I never happened to encounter them, I have an excellent chance of picking them up when I need them. But if I cannot assimilate them at all, I am permanently handicapped. Now, much stupidity may be hidden under the second, third and fourth varieties of ignorance. For instance, I may have allowed something valuable to fade from memory because I was insensitive toward vital facts which, if sensed and appraised, would have interested me deeply. In short, lack of interest can be, in some cases, another name for stupidity. Again, I may resist learning something, primarily because of an attitude and its linked emotions, but, in deeper analysis, because of dullness toward the import of the matter. I resemble now the child who hates the multiplication table partly because mastery of it is hard work, but mainly because he is too young, or too badly taught sometimes, to perceive the enormous usefulness of it. Stupid toward its value, he resents it and so fails to conquer it. Even misinformation may turn out to be founded more or less upon dullness, though this is by no means common. It may be careless listening or reading or observing, the carelessness itself having dullness as one ingredient to add to our troubles. Any and all of these indirect stupidities may combine. Do you wonder, then, at our woes? If you do, scan a few cases like the following. Try to decide the formula of each. The hazy borderline between simple ignorance and stupidity is traversed by a New York State farmer whose medical record was reported in the Journal of the American Medical Association by Dr. Henry S. Martin, of Warsaw, New York. At the age of 20 the man was first afflicted with a growth between the shoulder blades. It was then about as large as a walnut and entirely painless, so he did nothing about it. For 10 years it grew imperceptibly until it attained the size of a very large grapefruit. Naturally, it then interfered a little with the heavy manual labor which a farmer must carry on. And it must have also been a nuisance in connection with his clothes and the daily dressing and undressing. Try pinning a large grapefruit under your shirt just between your shoulder blades, then you can form a clear idea of the tumor. Physicians advised him strongly to have it removed. But the man listened to some of his farmer friends who assured him that he would die instantly, were the tumor cut off. Not once but many times during the ensuing years, medical scientists who heard of his case urged him to have an operation, but always in vain. Thus passed 40 years, during which the tumor grew very slowly at first, but later more rapidly, until it weighed 59.3 pounds and hung down his back like a sack of flour. It was 21 inches long and 50 inches in circumference. In order to walk, the man had to lean forward, for the sack of poison touched his hips. After he passed 70, the thing began to spoil. Ulcers appeared at the base, the growth increased fast, and his health was undermined. Finally, when 78, he resigned himself to death, too weak to work, too burdened to move about, and too old to care much whether he lived on or not. He consented to go to a hospital and have the burden removed. This after 50 years. He went into the ward at the Wyoming County Community Hospital on October 26, 1927, and came out entirely well on November 18. He had endured half a century of needless misery, all because he believed his neighbors rather than the physicians. Unfortunately, we have no psychological records of the man, which is a great pity. Were he a low-grade moron, we should judge him one way. Were he of only slightly sub-average intelligence, the verdict would run otherwise. But, in any event, is it not plain that, linked with utter ignorance, an invincible stupidity ruled this simple personality? Yet where did ignorance leave off, and stupidity begin? Had he perhaps suffered at the hands of some quack, early in life, and developed a fear of doctors? Had he seen a friend die under the knife, in an operation which everybody had declared easy and harmless? To diagnose his mentality, we should have to know his entire background of experiences with ailments and cures. Page 51.